Everybody's Dennis Rodman crazy now. another another point made to prove that the bad boy Pistons were the greatest team in NBA history. You don't hear them talk about nobody on the Bulls except for two people, Scotty and Michael, and they barely talk about Scotty. It's always about Jordan. That's it. You don't talk about the 96 Bulls without the reason for the 96 Bulls, which is Dennis Rodman. They needed Dennis Rodman. You don't win 72 games without Dennis Rodman. So, with that being said, people was talking about the ESPN interview he did, not even the 30 for 30, where he compared Draymond Green to him. And I said, yeah, the energy wise, I see Draymond being more like Dennis Rodman, but the outside life, Draymond is not. He's not like Dennis at all when it comes to that. But the energy and vibing with the crowd and things like that, that's him. The player that most, I would say, resembled Dennis Rodman as far as the conflict between personalities on the court and off the court and all of these different things is Ron Artest. I would say Ron Artest was Dennis Rodman 2.0. Ron was a rebounder. He was more rounded as a scorer too. Like he could score the basketball. He improved his shooting, but overall he was just incredibly strong, hardworking, but definitely a person that did things his way. Like, I've never seen somebody go out to really just do the things their own way and wanted nothing else in between. So, Dennis Rodman right now is one of the most iconic basketball players there was because of the way he played the game and the activities he did outside. Ron don't really have that flair. He didn't create an alter ego. He really wanted to just be left alone. When he got through playing the game, when the game was over, Ron wanted to go home. He wanted to fade away and go into his own world. He's cool with just being by himself. Rodman he needed to have that, people like him or hang around and have fun around him. And that made him feel good. I understand that at times. It's like an escape for you. It's like having television right in front of you. It's not saying that, oh, I know these people don't care about you. They only care about the things you're doing for them. Like Dennis said, you think I honestly don't know these people don't care for me? And people's like, well, why are you doing this? It was for them. It was for Dennis's therapy. It was like having entertainment right there in front of him. And this was it. This was it. Now, I remember watching all of these different turns of events. All of these different, you know, things that were happening with Ron Artest. And it was like, this guy's drowning. And there's nobody around to help him out. The Pistons incident happened. And I never talk about the malice in the palace and all that stuff. I never really talk about it. It's the first time you're going to probably hear me talk about it, and probably the last. Ron Artest and everybody from the Indiana Pacers were reacting to the situation. That was a reactional moment. He was reacting to a situation. He did everything within the game of basketball on the court that was legal to do. He hard fouled a player. He was called for it. And he went to the sideline. And Ben Wallace reacted, which set some fans off because how hard he was fouled. A fan threw a cup, hit Ron Artest while he's sitting on the bench. And Ron just reacted. Now, they said, well, he created the situation. No, the fan who threw something onto the court, he created the situation. Ron reacted to the situation. And as a professional athlete, you're not supposed to react to these incidents. Now, once that happened, it started new rules where, okay, fans could be kicked out for life, barred for life, cannot come back to another game due to these events. Now, Steven Jackson, I don't know Steven Jackson. Let me say that right now and reiterate that. I do not know Steven Jackson. But I will say this. In my heart of hearts, I believe Steven Jackson was reacting the way he was reacting, in my opinion, because he lost a brother. And when you lose a brother, somebody that was an older brother, and you're the younger brother, you felt like I wasn't there. Like I want to be there to protect people who I call my family. And I felt he came in there basically protecting his teammates and was going to be there no matter what. He put his career on the line. He put his career on the line to back up Ron. And I've seen Steven Jackson once in my life. And I was in a strip club where something happened. Well, something almost happened. And then I think about what happened to the player in Denver. Same scenario. And one person ended up losing their life behind it. So, and it was the wrong person. But he was in the entourage and just happened to be a player for the Denver Broncos. And the same scenario could have possibly went left that night. So I just look at things a little differently than some of the other human beings in the game or outside of the game. And with people, and I think some of the management and some of the people, A&Rs, executives, they have a problem just like the fans. They don't understand that the players and the athletes are people too. They have good days, they have bad days, they have emotions, they have days they're just not feeling it. And they have days in which they might do something wrong. That one was beyond anything that anybody could ever imagine. And everything that happened after the fact was just it was never gonna go away. And definitely not with a new season would that moment ever be forgotten. It would take a strong mind to be able to get through that and survive it. You know, Ron Artest had players on his team that he never really consorted with. He never friended anyone really on his team. And NBA is all about relationships. And Ron didn't have any real relationships in the game. He was basically isolated. And it was similar to very similar to what had happened with Dennis Rodman. Rodman had a bond with his first team, and that's all he knew. And he never had nothing planned outside of the game except for basketball. That's all he knew. Prepare, go out there, work hard, and just everything was going to take care of itself. And Rodman was always in a bad situation with taxes. He's in a bad situation with money and all these different things. And he didn't amass as much as Ron was given. All these other players in the 2000 era had been gifted with all these wads of cash. So he spent his money very wildly, plus lawsuits and partying and all of these things. They add up. Then you got to pay the taxes to most of these things you bought. They didn't go into it. Rodman had a couple of trucks, some cars, and then he bought his wife a diamond ring and cars, and she kept all that stuff. Then later she went on and sold most of his jerseys and everything else that they had. It was terrible. And just like in Indiana, Ron Artest wanted out. He just wanted to change of environment. And with Detroit, Rodman felt like when Chuck left, that was you might as well get rid of him too, because it's not going to work out. Keeping Dennis around was just not going to work out for them. So when you're looking at, I'll say 6, 7 to possibly 8 different players in the league at the time that tried to help Dennis Rodman. It was really 8 players that I can remember off the top of my head that really tried to say, let me help Dennis. Let me try to really reach out and help Dennis Rodman. Isaiah Thomas was one. And Isaiah and Dennis never really had Isaiah and him never really had a tight bond like that. They had a bond when they played together, but as they separated, everybody had their own lives. But I remember he reached out to him and said, call me. Rick Mahorn. John Sally was the only guy he really kind of stayed close to. Because him and John, that was who he partied with. He hung out, he partied with John. Like Sally was his guy. They came in together as rookies, and that was like his tightest friend. But nobody from the Bulls, not Phil Jackson, none of them. Michael, definitely not. Scotty, not. Scotty, recently, within the past I would say the past 2 to 3 years, he's reached out to Dennis. I would say after the situation that happened with North Korea, that he reached out to Dennis. Um, I think it was two other players that reached out to Dennis and tried to like check on him and see if he's okay. I think one of them might have been Shaq. Don't hold me to that, but I think one of them was Shaquille O'Neal. Might have been. But I've seen a lot of things happen within like time, and seeing people implode, and it breaks Isaiah Thomas's heart because he couldn't do enough for him. And just watching the 30 for 30, you get to see Isaiah break down when he's like watching Dennis Rodman play for the Bulls. It was like everybody's seeing him win and grab all the rebounds. Isaiah's able to look through that and see what's actually happening. And you're seeing somebody who's basically crying out for help. He's just in a spiral right now where he's partying every night, he's performing on the court, but he's definitely not himself. He's not that same guy. He's just, and they treat him as a character, like this freak of nature. And that's how the Bulls is like, we're just going to use you because we need you right now. Other than that, we wouldn't even care about you. And that was disturbing. It rubbed Isaiah the wrong way because the league really didn't want him. They was trying to find ways to get rid of Dennis Rodman. The league tried to find ways to get rid of Ron Artest, but at the same time, they embraced that there's something here. There's something here that we could use and take advantage of until we don't need it anymore. Then we could discard it. Now, me per se, I was just trying to reiterate certain, variables between the two. Rodman and Artest on the rebounds were exceptionally gifted. Like the way they went about their preparation for the rebounds, the way they battled, the way they were there for their team, it was Rodman just wanted to do a good job. And so does Ron Artest. They needed to have that approval that they knew that they were giving their best at all times. Ron, more than Dennis, had a plan B or wanted to do other things outside of basketball. Rodman had zero plans. None. His day-to-day life was just get up, go play basketball, work out. That's it. Then party every day, until it's time to start all over again the next day. So that was how Dennis Rodman went about his day. That basketball was it. That's all he knew. He didn't know anything else. He tried to be a movie star, didn't work out. Tried to do all these different things, and people just wanted the the image. They wanted Dennis Rodman, the image, the star, whatever. Artest wanted to be really a producer or manager and put out record companies and start doing some films, producing movies, not actually being in them. He wanted to actually exist in the entertainment world and, be behind the scenes. He wanted to rap. He used to rap when he was in with his buddies and things like that. But as far as distant connect, he's not somebody that trusts people a lot. He had a lot of trust issues. And I see that with Dennis, and you can always root that back to their upbringing. That's why the first 7, 8, and 9 years of your life is so valuable and so important for all these fathers that are not there for their children. These years are so vital because your child is being shaped during their first 7 years. They're really picking up everything and they're learning from you. So when they hit 7 and they could like grasp things a lot more than the average, and you think they're learning these things. And a traumatic experience could set them back for life. Your job is to protect them. That's your job. Keep them safe, educate them, prepare them. Did you know that the average human being is meant to go out and start his own family and life at the age of 18 years of age? Mary had Jesus when she was what, 14? She was already married. And this is back then, 14 years of age, and they were getting married at this age. 14, 15, 16, they're marrying off. So now it goes later and later and later to now that people don't even leave their mothers' homes. They basically stay in the parents' home until they're 35, 45, or they have no plans to leave. They even would move the wife into their mom's house. Now it's like at 18, your kids are either going to college or preparing to live life on their own. But that's not happening more frequently because people are not preparing their children for life outside, because they don't know how to teach them. They didn't learn anything. You will be surprised, but there's many universities out here that don't teach or preach anything about, you know, we're going to do something about finance in the poor communities. They think it's a waste of time. In so many states, it's only like what, about 20 some odd states where it's a requirement? It's not even required in a lot of states that you know anything about finance. That's something to ask questions about. And one of the most polarizing things that was stated in that special, and please don't forget, hit the Cash App up and support the Cash App. One of the most telling things that I heard in that documentary was Dennis Rodman telling you he's probably the 10th most famous person in the world, where you can go anywhere in the world and be recognized. And was he happy? And you look at him and he's not happy. And that says a lot in value. Think about it. He can go anywhere in this world and probably be recognized. He's 10th and he's not happy. not happy, doesn't know how to be happy. It's almost heartbreaking to watch. And he seems like almost a tortured soul because he never understood a lot in his life. And it came from not having a strong father figure in his life. That these other people like Chuck Daly, the coach, his friend's father, they always kept him at a pace where he was, this is like my father. And he entrusted him so much, and it's just, you just want the best for Dennis. If you're sitting on the sidelines and you're looking at his life and you're just rooting for him to make it. No one thought Dennis Rodman would live to see 40. The way he lived his life, it was amazing. Ron Artest, no one thought. I never thought. I thought Ron Artest would harm himself. I was praying that he wouldn't, but I'm like, oh my God, I'm worried about this guy because he was such a loose cannon. Like he's there one minute he's gone. And when he finally started getting some help, he became beloved, and I'm like, wow, he went and got therapy and all of these different things. I just don't think Rodman is as receptive to things like therapy and all of these different, outlets to try to correct or fix himself, in these situations. I think he's just bored with it. So it's just one of those things. Didn't mean to depress. I'm sitting up here like I'm drinking a bottle of liquor, about to lash out with sadness. But watching that 30 for 30 just took a lot out of me. Especially being a Piston fan. When you're a bad boy Piston fan, this is like right in your wheelhouse. You remember the good times, all the dominance, then you start remembering how it all fell to pieces and how Dennis fell to pieces and how everything around him crumbled and it just got worse and worse and worse. So all this guy ever wanted to do was play basketball, give you everything he got, and try to have some family in his life. But he just didn't know how. And nobody had time to make that time to try to do these things for him at this point. And it hurt. It was sad to watch because I could see a lot of people feeling a little guilty because they always felt there was more they could do. And when Ryan had his psychologist, Santi, started working with him, it changed his life. I just wish Dennis Rodman had something that could change his life or something to make him spark. Maybe it'll be his grandkids. Some people wait a lifetime before they actually get to a certain point. So we'll see what happens. But until then, pray for these guys because they're still here for a reason.